Hey,
Okay.
there you go. All right. Sorry about that.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. How about you? You hear me?
I don't hear you.
Hang on. It says I'm alive. How about that?
Your camera's on, but your microphone's not on.
I'm not sure why. How's that? Can you hear me now? No. Hey, can you hear me now? Ah. Hey, I'm not sure.
Hmm. Okay. All right. Try it again.
All right.
Try
Hey,
say something. Yeah.
can you hear me?
Why would that be?
Yeah, it shows I'm on here.
Okay. So my ah. Okay. What about now?
I can hear you.
Okay. Good. I got you too. Okay. So we're
All
good.
right.
We're both good.
Okay, cool. All right, man.
All
I
right.
think.
So let me push us both
All right,
into the stream. All
there we
right.
go.
Okay. That's
This
what
new
happened.
technology, I tell you.
Yeah, that's what happens when I try to be too fancy. You know.
Like I
All right.
tested the connection earlier and everything worked, but then when I went to log back in, it showed, I think it locked up the system. It was like, hey, your camera's being used by another app.
Probably. Yeah.
So I had
Yeah.
to shut
Okay.
everything back off.
All right. So I think we're good now, man.
All
So
right, good
okay.
deal.
All right. Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Dwight Woods, Jeet Kune Rebel. Welcome to episode number 274 of the Jeet Kune Dialogues with my good friend Mark Mills of Columbia Martial Arts and Fitness. Hey, was it always and fitness in the name of your school?
The very beginning, it was Columbia Martial Arts Training Center. And
Ah,
then
right.
we moved
I
into
knew something was
we
different.
moved this building in 2007 and we kind of
Mhm.
updated the name a little bit.
Okay, because all right. So let me make sure I got this right. Because I think what you're doing is very similar to what I did when I had my school. You have you start with the kids at age 4,
Yeah.
and that's not called. Is it Little Dragons or I forget which
We call them tiny dragons.
Tiny Dragons, right? Then and that's 4 to 6.
Yep.
So then 7 to is it 10 or so?
Yeah, we listed as like 7, 10 to 12 because the kids come in such different sizes and stuff. We have a
Uh-huh.
separate teens program that'll go 10 to 12 to 15 or 16, maybe even a little bit older if they're not quite ready for adult class.
Okay. All right. So it's tiny dragons, little dragons, and teen dragons, right?
Right.
Okay. All right. Then the adult program. What's separate from what?
We have a separate, our biggest classes are the one with the most options is the JKD class. And we have a JKD basic and intermediate advanced. So two different levels.
Okay.
Let's see, one, two, like 5 JKD1 classes, 2 JKD2 classes, because we have some morning classes too. Then we have Muay Thai is currently separate. One of the JKD classes, we call it JKD Weapons, but it's Kali. And then we also teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu separately, and then fitness kickboxing too.
Okay. So now you've been Francis Fong certified instructor for a long time, right?
Yeah, the Sifu gave me before I was certified. He gave permission to teach. Really, not long after I started training, because I was driving back and forth to Atlanta, and I asked him. I said, "Hey, you mind if I get a group of guys together and
Mm-hmm.
train some, just so I'll have some training and stuff like that?" And he said that was fine, and it started in my backyard. And then we moved to, I was in the automotive business, and we moved into one of my shops. And sooner or later, I had, I don't know, 20 or 30 guys, and it was like a shop full. And then I said, well, tell you what, we'll just go in together. I didn't want to really do a school, but I said, we'll go in together and rent like a little cheap building, and we'll have a place to go. And it was like, I don't know, maybe it must have been 10 or 12 of us. It was like $50 a piece to rent it and cover the expenses. It was like 1,250 square foot, little small kind of retail space, no air conditioning.
Right.
But that didn't last. The first month, of course, like half the people didn't come up with their $50, and by the third month, it was all me. So that's kind of how it got started.
Yep. Sounds familiar.
I think a lot of us got to get started that way, just looking for people to train with. And,
Yes.
the next thing you know, you got people around, and now you got the responsibilities of trying to teach and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do what we all do it because all of our heroes, Dan Inosanto, Paul Vunak, Francis Fong, everybody is teaching. So we end up teaching too.
Yeah.
Right. So but the Wing Chun's not separate. That's integrated.
Yeah,
That's
we over the years we have had a separate Wing Chun class, and I would like to have another one. We used to do before COVID. We had Saturday classes, and we had a specific Wing Chun class.
Okay.
We were only closed. We talked last time, I think, about COVID. We closed a little bit for COVID. We came back. We didn't do Saturdays, and we haven't started back. Don't know that we will. I think it hurts us a little bit, but that's another discussion. But yeah, right now we incorporate that into the JKD class, and we kind of rotate through the skills and stuff.
What about Sunday classes? Did you ever experiment with that?
No.
Yeah,
I would find my stuff out in the yard if I Sunday class.
Right. You're probably familiar with the name Don Barnes.
That name sounds familiar.
Yeah, I don't know, since I'm not in like the martial art business world anymore. I'm not sure, but she was phenomenally successful Shotokan karate instructor in like Santa Monica or something.
I know who you're talking about. I haven't heard anything from her in years.
Right. That's what I was wondering. So she was the first person I ever heard talk about Sunday classes, and she said she did it. Right. Listen to this. She said she did it because, well, some days that's when the dads have the kids.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
Right. As in the divorced couple. Right. And and I thought to myself, I go, man, I mean, I get it. Because, because sometimes, what's your take on this? I think sometimes in the martial art business, some people push it a little bit too far, right? Because, well, it could be another source of revenue. I think some people push it a little bit too far.
Yeah, well, we're full time and we own our building, and I can understand. Like we do summer camps and after
Hmm.
school, and while I
Hmm.
mean obviously that's a need in the community, and I think we really provide a benefit. It's still really good money, but it's
Right.
also a lot of work. We have our after school and summer camp small compared to a lot of people, but I think for we probably averaged 60 kids a week over this past summer.
Hmm.
So, but it's just a grind. It's all day long. Um,
Yeah.
if I had enough staff, I'm not opposed to Saturdays. I'm not opposed to being open on Saturdays. I'm opposed to working on Saturdays. Because I'm here. Well, for summer camps, even on summer camps, I'm like, unless I'm on vacation, I'm usually here 7:15 in the morning. I don't usually leave till 8:30 at night. And
Right.
sometimes I don't even leave during the day at all. I just get lunch here. Um,
Yeah.
and so we put a lot in. And then Saturdays, there's just, and right now I don't have enough staff for me to ask them to work Saturdays. So once we get enough staff where you have some extra people around and everybody's not working since COVID, it's been like incredibly busy.
Hmm.
COVID, I thought COVID was the hardest that I'd ever worked. But this last summer was like the hardest. It's still hard to find just outside of martial arts help, just regular help. Um, you know,
Yeah.
just people to watch the kids, administration staff. We're constantly running ads and trying to get people in. So that leaves us doing a lot of the work, and then the work that staff should do, and then you got to do the work that you should do, and then also
Right.
work that I should be doing that I'm not doing at all. It's just not getting done.
Yeah. Yeah. Man. I mean, hats off to you because summer camp, I can remember people telling me, how much money you can make and what have you, but just the thought of it drove me crazy, and it would have been because we had morning classes Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. So I didn't really have anywhere to put kids because
Yeah,
my Monday mornings, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning, we started at 9:30,
yeah,
and I didn't have enough square footage to be able to put the kids somewhere that the adults wouldn't be.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So we never did it. But I can remember reading these glamour stories about like the taekwondo people,
yeah.
how all their money would be made in summer, all their annual revenue would be made really in summer camp.
Yeah, some people have like really big ones, but you figure for us in this area, we do different. You sign at different times, different prices, but on
Mhm.
average, $175 a week. Times, like I said, some weeks we had more than that, but average 60 kids a week for
Right.
9 weeks.
Yeah.
But you earn your money,
Oh yeah.
no doubt.
Yeah.
If you have completely separate staff, which we've done in the past, but this year we hired people for summer camp almost the day of summer camp. Like, the day before we finally
Mhm.
hired a couple of people in, and we
Yeah.
ran short all summer. We went on vacation twice and we managed to cover everything, but
Right.
it's tough. I'm here. My wife's here. She handles most of the desk stuff, the admin
Uh-huh.
stuff.
Yeah.
I handle most of the kids in classes. My youngest daughter is 17. She's here. Last year, my oldest daughter was here, but now she works full time somewhere else. So for us to go on a vacation, especially like last year, literally that's half the staff.
Yeah.
And
I'm actually having a little bit of an upload problem here, but I wanted to show the picture of you and your three girls because so a little background story. So Mark, let's see, you came through Miami twice on that last vacation, right?
yeah, we came in and came out. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I was teasing him that he didn't have any time for me, So so we decided that we would make up for it with this little talk here. But you guys were cruising then, I guess.
Yeah. We came in a day early because with travel, I didn't want to take a chance. So I'd been to Miami over the years a couple of times, but never been to South Beach. So I said, hey, we'll just spend the night at South Beach, and that way we can
Right,
say we did South
right.
Beach.
That was the picture I saw,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Written in the sand. I was like,
yeah.
damn, he's here. Yeah. Hey, by the way, September, are you going up to Atlanta?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. I'll see you there
You're
then
gonna be there. Oh,
because
awesome. That's awesome.
yeah. There's about 4 or 5 of us from Miami coming up
Oh, cool. We should have a
for
pretty good
that.
group. We usually have a good group for that one. I've now got a couple of apprentice instructors, so they'll be there.
Okay.
And then we usually have 5 or 6, maybe sometimes even more than that for that
Right.
group. That's
Yeah.
a pretty easy trip for us.
Yeah, we think of it as an easy one because it's a nonstop, and
Yeah,
it's like 2 hours,
yeah,
right? So for us, that's the equivalent of like you guys who drive,
yeah, yeah,
like I mean, because I remember in the early years back when it was called the Southeast Conference,
yeah.
right? I remember I used to walk through the car park and there were North Carolina plates, South Carolina plates, Virginia
Yep,
plates,
everybody.
right? Everybody, Alabama plates, everybody. And I was like, wow, that's pretty interesting. But then you think about it. Atlanta at one point is still the hub for Delta
Yep,
and was a hub for Eastern Airlines as well. So
yep.
yeah, so everything flows in and out of Atlanta. So okay, so the Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, you said that is taught separately. That's
Yep,
not
yep. We
integrated
have 2
also.
morning classes, 2 evening classes for jujitsu.
Okay. Now, in all honesty, was that was the decision to have jujitsu based on popularity? That
No,
no,
none of them are really based on popularity, other than maybe like the Wing Chun. I don't know. It's really weird because you'll talk to people who have really big FMA classes, really big
hmm
Wing Chun classes, and
hmm
I don't know whether it's it could be the skill of the teacher, maybe the area on it like that.
hmm
Wing Chun and the Filipino stuff, as much as I love it, has never seemed to attract like the crowd. Um,
Interesting.
JKD, I have one, it's easier to pick up. We
Uh-huh.
Sifu Fong was just here, and we had some people do that. And nobody's trained, but tell you to throw a punch. People can throw, without any training, a kind of a
Right.
decent punch.
Right.
But now, if you're going to teach somebody trapping, it's like they have no idea where to even start.
hmm
So it's
Hmm.
easier to pick up. But in the past, we've had that, but it's always been a small group. JKD is by far the bigger one.
Yeah.
There are a lot of jiu-jitsu schools in the area, and there are some that are, primarily jiu-jitsu schools. So they might have
Right.
12 or 16 jiu-jitsu classes a week. And
Okay.
some of them are very competition based. Uh,
Yeah.
almost everything I teach is based on what I like to teach.
hmm
The jujitsu was more because I probably the jujitsu or grappling is probably my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
Not necessarily always my favorite thing to teach because it's very, very technical,
Right.
or it can be. Um, but I need people to practice JKD with, need people to practice Wing Chun with. Um, it's kind of evolved, just like I said, it's what I like to teach, what I like to do.
hmm
And probably because that's what I like to do, those classes do better. Like right now, our Muay Thai class is smaller. I had somebody else teaching it. Now I'm teaching one of the 2 classes each week.
Yeah.
And even though I enjoy training Muay Thai, that's right now I'm kind of focused on other things. And I guess it shows when you're teaching and stuff like that. If you're not fired up about something to teach, it's
Right.
hard to get in there and bring the enthusiasm and stuff. And nothing wrong with Muay Thai. It's just right now I'm thinking more of the Wing Chun part. Sifu was just here, so
Yeah.
the a lot of times the JKD structure is based on seminars coming up. So for the last 6 weeks, Sifu's, we knew Sifu was coming. So in the JKD2 class, we've been working Wing Chun, so we'll be ready when Sifu gets here. And
I get it.
now we'll work some JKD and some Filipino stuff to get ready for seeing Guru Dan in September.
Right. Okay.
So we kind of mix whatever's coming up.
Yeah. Do you know Dean Lessie? Do you know who?
I know who he is. Yeah.
Yeah. That's one guy I admire because he's still got that Muay Thai energy.
Yeah.
Going.
We get a lot of calls from Muay Thai here lately. I tell you, anytime you think about, because I would like to have a full Wing Chun class. I'd like to have 2 Kali classes, at least 2 Kali classes a week. The problem is there's just not enough space and time. We're about 250 to 275 students, probably 160, 170 kids. The rest are adults. And we've got our school is 5,000 square foot, but I've got 2 mats. One of them's about 1,000 square foot. One of them's about 1,200 square foot. And starting about 3:15, we run one of them continuously to 8 o'clock. And then the second one starts at 5:30 or 5:45, and we'll run 2 or 3 classes of that. So most of the time we have 2 classes going on at the same time.
Yeah.
I would have to either eliminate a kids class or something like that. But when you start thinking, I'm looking at the Muay Thai class thinking, man, it's gotten kind of small. Of course, the next thing you know, you get like 6 people that call about Muay Thai. It's like, yeah.
It's hard to get because we didn't have even. I think it took a few years of bringing Ajahn Chai annually. We brought him every year, but I think it probably took about 3 or 4 years before I thought, you know what, we should just split this off and have a separate Muay Thai program.
Yeah,
because it took us a while to do that, and then once we did, it was fine. But you know what I never did? I never started a jiu-jitsu program.
Yeah.
Too much politics.
It can be it can be tough. Jiu-jitsu was grappling. I didn't start jiu-jitsu. I started with Eric Paulson in submission grappling.
Right.
Kind of back in the very beginning, right after UFC, just like everybody else, it's like I went down and I found a jiu-jitsu school, but it was traditional jiu-jitsu. Now, while I was there, we did a lot more groundwork than they would traditionally because that's kind of what I wanted to do. And they actually let me teach some of the classes. But that's what I've always enjoyed doing. I just wish that all that had come along when I was much, much younger.
Yeah.
It's definitely a young man's game as far as getting out there and competing and stuff. But I was able to avoid a lot of the politics in the beginning by not being ranked. I got a blue belt from Hoist. I don't know, somewhere in the mid 90s, 97. I think I got a blue belt from Carlos. But at that point, blue belts were okay. You could kind of go anywhere and everybody kind of liked you and it was okay to train anywhere. Yeah. But to get beyond that, you kind of had to commit. And so I don't know, 98 or 99, I started training with the Machados, mostly with Carlos, but I trained a lot with John Jock out at the academy.
Right.
And eventually, so I kind of quit training at some of the other places and stuff on it like that. Eric doesn't care. Eric trains. He's got Higgin kind of in his program, or they work together.
Yeah. So if because I just got this question asked of me. A guy says he asked me if it would help. This is what this. Let me try to remember. He says, would it help to have even a few amateur cage fights if I plan to open my own dojo and open my own dojo? What was the other part? Oh, and then there was this ridiculous part. Open my own dojo and create my own style. that right. So that last part I kind of ignored, right? But so let's deal with just that. But how would you answer that? What would you tell him?
Unless he was going to do just fighters, which I wouldn't recommend. I don't think it really matters.
Right.
We had an active MMA program years ago. We had some fighters, had a couple of guys make it to Bellator, the UFC, was it Ultimate Fighter tryouts, never got on like that. There's a lot, you talk about the politics, there's a lot involved there besides just the fighting. You've got to be, obviously got to be a good fighter, but then you have to know the right people, be in the right place at the right time to latch on. There's a lot of really good fighters that don't get anywhere because they don't have good managers. The managers don't have connections. Columbia, South Carolina is not exactly a hotbed of MMA. I told my guys, they trained with us for a while. I said, hey, if you want to really go any farther, because they were already kind of top of the big fish in the pond, so to speak. I said, you got to have, if you want to be better, you want to get up, you're going to have to go somewhere else, Vegas, California, top 10 in Florida, someplace like that, where you're going to be around bigger people and those opportunities are going to present themselves.
Yeah.
But besides that, unless you're going to do fighters, I don't think you really need any ring. I did a lot of grappling tournaments when I was younger, when I first started out, grappling and jiu-jitsu, but I've never done like any type of amateur professional like MMA. I was late to the game. I started training. I trained traditional karate and American style as a teenager, but then I stopped for like 10 years. I didn't start back till I was like 29. And by the time we got MMA and stuff kind of came out, I was close to 40. So it's too old to be getting banged in the head.
You just talked about the MMA crowd and what have you. What's the psychographics of your area? Because Miami's hip, Miami's young, it's booming economically and what have you. And so, we've got a crowd here that everything that's popular, right?
Yeah.
So UFC, Bellator, one championship, Strike Force, whatever. Like the young people here, that's what they're into. What's the psychographic in your area?
I mean, it's not that.
Good for you.
It's a conservative area, and we actually helped break MMA. MMA was illegal in South Carolina up till maybe the 2000s. I don't remember when we did our first show, but they finally were able to regulate it, made it legal and regulate it. And we tried really hard. We did 9 shows, all MMA shows, and we always, fortunately, knock on wood, we always made at least a little bit of money. Sometimes we made a lot of money. A lot of people lost their behinds on it, but for some reason, it just, I don't know, it didn't catch on. It's not the crowd for it, but boxing didn't either. It's really weird. If you want to drive a car around in circles real fast, that'll probably go catch on here a lot more than like people. There's still a lot of people that watch UFC, but they watch UFC. They don't, and that's always, say, well, hey, if you want to reach people that want to do MMA, you want to go out to where they're watching the UFC, but those people are watching. It's just like watching football. Watching football is fun. Playing football, it's a whole different thing. And that's kind of, I think, what you run into. I'm sure you get some calls. We get calls all the time. It's like, hey, how long before I could be a professional MMA fighter? Well, probably never.
Right. Yeah. That's very interesting, because it's always a job working out, what people want.
Yeah. And what they need.
Right. Well, how often do they come to you and tell you what they need?
Yeah, no, almost never. Everybody talks about marketing. Almost everybody's in martial arts. Very few people are actually looking for martial arts. It's just like going to the gym. Not a lot of people really like working out. They like the results of working out. Most people are in martial arts. They either want to lose weight or they want to feel better about themselves, whether it's gaining confidence, improving self-esteem. And third would be actual self-defense. So most people kind of say, hey, I just want to be able to protect myself. But it's kind of those 3 things. If you get people that are really looking for martial arts, half the time they're kind of probably the oddballs you don't want in. If somebody's actually generally looking for Wing Chun, looking for JKD, they're probably like on the fringe. Yeah, I mean, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And most people don't, as somebody who's put most of their life into martial arts, our style and our skills are important to us, but most people don't give beans about that at all. They
Right.
don't know JKD from Taekwondo or karate, or to
Yeah.
them, it's all punching and kicking.
Right. I mean, is the generic term karate still common?
Yes. Yes.
Really?
Oh yeah. Even the Taekwondo guys still put karate on their signs.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible because that's what I find fascinating because we've had social media for decades now.
Yep.
We've had the internet for decades. So there's more information out there. How is it that certain terms never evolved? So karate, it's still all karate.
It's for the vast majority of people, it's all karate. Now, I think jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu specifically, is separate. People understand what that is, and it's odd. I guess the Gracies have done a really good job of marketing it from that very first UFC.
Right.
Though we still got a lot of people that come in that don't know what it is. They just know that Joe Rogan or somebody on UFC said, "Hey, this guy does BJJ," so they come in, and then you say, "Well, that's like all groundwork." And like, oh no, that's not what I want to do. I want to do UFC. Like that's a style.
Right.
We get that a lot. So I want to do UFC.
Yeah. What about the style of MMA? Like not necessarily in your day-to-day operation, but like as a martial artist, do you ever have to explain to people? Because I get the question all the time. But somehow MMA has become a thing.
Yes. Yeah.
As
and
opposed
that's
to just
what most people mean by MMA. They're thinking UFC, so MMA as a sport, rather than. And you'll see a lot of people say Bruce Lee was like the first mixed martial artist. And I don't think necessarily was the first, but the first one to be popular, where you're mixing punching and kicking, you're mixing some grappling, trapping. So that's true mixed martial arts, and I have to explain that to people. People are funny. I get, we do Muay Thai. I had somebody the other day had a 6-year-old want to do Muay Thai, and there's a school here in town that does teach a kid's Muay Thai class.
Right.
And hey, everybody does what they want to do, but it's like, no, I'm not. Just like there's a school that teaches MMA, and I'm not teaching a 6-year-old how to ground and pound. I just don't think they need to know that. They need to know how to defend themselves from that. But I just don't think that, especially the more research you do into the results of head trauma. As you're getting older, I've probably had 3 or 4 concussions, car wrecks, motorcycle wrecks. Dan King up in Charlotte?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was the feeder for my second round of my Thai test.
Okay.
And, he got me in the head in the second round, and it was all rocky after that. But I'm sure it was funny because Master Chai at the end of it, I got through the round, but I don't remember anything. But I remember getting kicked and thinking it was like a gong going off. And Dan's a super nice guy. We're good friends. I had nothing against him. I'm sure that's what Master Chai told me to do. He threw a couple kicks kind of over my head, I guess, as a warning. And I just figured, well, I have a force field up there. He's not kicking me. And then so I remember getting hit. And then I remember Master Chai asking me if I was okay. I was kneeling down in the ring at the end. And I said, yes, sir. And he said, I don't think so. And I don't remember. So the more I think about that, I did one of my MMA classes. I had a coach, and I said, I'm going to stay and do class. And it was like super light. We were doing like bull in the ring sparring, boxing. And I know the guys were being nice to me, but I still got hit a lot. And I had like ringing in my ears for like 3 days. And I said, I can't. Yeah. Eric Paulson talks about that with all the rounds and stuff that he's done. You start not being able to remember phone numbers and things like that. And we were talking about the other day, one of my old students had come back through and was talking about the difference in the way I teach and train now as opposed to then.
How so?
I'm not as young,
Right. But
So
what was he pointing out? What did he find was different?
I'm training now more with following Guru Dan's advice, more in the interest of longevity. How long can I train? Decades. rather than training like really, really hard, minimizing the head contact, which is, what I mentioned, we were chatting back and forth online, is the balancing the sparring with the skills.
Right.
Guru talks about, you could do like, it's all JKD. You could simply put pads on everybody, every class, and just say, all right, you guys go spar. And he'd talk about doing that with stick fighting. He said, oh, everybody wants to do a stick fighting class. He said, the first class you got 20, the second class you got 10, and the third class you got 5.
Yep.
And those are the 5 who pretty much beat everybody else up.
Yep. Yep.
You don't develop any fighters. You kind of weed the ones that don't have the natural athletic skills. Mm-hmm. Most of the MMA fighters we had that were really good, I mean, I would love to take credit for it, but they were just good athletes. They probably would have gone anywhere and fared pretty well.
Right.
You take like Bruce Lee, 14 wound up in Wing Chun, but I don't think it would have mattered really what he did. Mm-hmm. He was a phenomenal athlete with all the attributes that you needed. Yeah. Most people aren't, so how are you going to, that whole transition? I see now more people like, I follow a lot of like Burton Richardson stuff about the functional aspect of it. Then you have people that are more technique, not as much sparring, but there's got to be somewhere in the middle there where it's safe enough to spar without the injury rate being too high.
Right.
But you still got to have some sparring, to know that some of the skills, the skills actually work.
Yeah. Well, I remember being very intrigued because it was something that I had always thought about, but I had never heard from an outside source. I used to think about the Muay Thai fighters. Okay. And be like, wait, there is no way that they are sparring hard, because if you get injured in training, you can't go try to make your money.
Yeah.
And then I found out that in some camps, they go hard on the equipment.
Yeah.
And then they work timing on each other.
Yeah.
But they don't go hard on each other. They save that for the ring.
Yeah.
Right? So we adopted that mentality. And I would use it. If we were sparring and anybody started to get out of hand, I would stop them and I would go, whoa, hang on a second. Are you a professional fighter? Do you want to be a professional fighter? No. Okay, well then tone it down. You see? Because then, and that's the problem with sparring. Because I remember, but you trained traditional karate in the beginning, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So tell me if you remember it this way. Class starts, everybody warms up together, you do your basics together, then you split off into white belt group, yellow belt group, green belt group, you do your specific belt technique stuff, right? And then you come back at the end for sparring.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
Now, when were we ever taught how to spar?
We weren't, and back then that was pre foam dip sparring gear days. So you wore like they're almost like little mittens,
right,
on your hands.
Right? Yeah.
And contact was supposedly limited.
Yeah. So you were never taught how to spar, and that's the problem.
Yep.
Today, everybody, I believe in the Okinawan and Japanese arts, it's called Jiu Kumite, which is free sparring.
Yeah.
That's what people think sparring is. They think that it's completely free sparring. I don't know what you're going to do and when you're going to do it. You don't know what I'm going to do and when I'm going to do it. And that's the only type of sparring the people understand. And that's where, when you have the guy who is out of control, that's when people get hurt.
Yeah.
And I've told this story many times before. I used to see that before I moved to Miami. When I used to come up here, I used to come up to visit. And my good friend, she was a member of a Taekwondo school. And I used to go over and watch her class. And there was this kid who had the worst attitude when it came to the sparring. If he got even touched, right? Oh man, he's stripping off the equipment. He's so pissed off and whatever. And I always wondered, why don't they get rid of him? And then one day I got there early and I saw him pull up. So he's like 16, 17, and he pulls up in his own BMW. Right? And I was like, oh, interesting. Many years later, now I have my school. Now I'm living in Miami. He comes to my school. I recognize him immediately. And he comes to my school and he's like, hey, I hear you teach knife fighting. I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, I want to learn knife fighting. I was like, I don't think I'm the guy for you.
Yeah.
He has no idea why I refused him.
Yeah.
Right? But I recognized him. No way. Could never, that kind of attitude. And that's the thing with sparring. Right? So I boiled it down, Mark, and maybe this will help you. I boiled it down to this. The intriguing aspect of sparring is that area of not knowing.
Yeah.
So you build up to that. You build up to that by knowing. So I'm going to specifically do this, and you are going to specifically answer it with this. And then, as we get better and better and better, faster, more accurate, and what have you, then we introduce an area of unknown.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Right? So if you think about it, in the traditional schools, what did they do? 3-step sparring, right? Block, 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 return, right? Okay. Unrealistic. Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe what we do is we take that 3 count and make it more realistic. So now we turn that 3 count into the jab drill. I jab, you jab, I come at you. You do something against that third motion.
Yeah.
It's the equivalent, but it's more realistic. The timing, the rhythm of it, because there's so much you could do with just that simple jab drill.
Yeah, we use that drill, that is a drill base for a lot. Kind of what I do is we'll go through like the attack by draw sequences for the jab cross, the jab cross hook, or the jab hook with the mitts, and then we go back through them with gloves. So on the mitts, you get to do the hits and stuff, and then we'll go back. Everybody's wearing gloves, and now you work through the same sequences, but now we're gloves, and we're coming back. Instead of me coming back and cross the pads, I cross hook cross you, and then you defend that, and then we move back around. To me, the trick is that moving from that to, there's nothing. No sparring is ever going to be like fighting. Fighting is fighting because
fighting is fighting.
What's going to happen in here at the school, no matter how rough it might get, it's still another student on a padded floor with people around. It's not the same as, somebody jumps you out in the parking lot, like on your way coming out of the grocery store or something, where the context is completely different. But you still want to get to that point. I like the idea of the knowing and not knowing, because we talk about that. We'll build up like a sequence where I might do, say, jab cross, or I might do jab cross hook, and we'll work sequences off that. And now when it's time to feed, I'm either going to throw the jab cross, or I might throw the jab cross hook. So now you have a decision to make, at least 2. Right. But in real life, it's almost infinite. They could jab, they could punch, they could kick, they could shoot, they could pull a knife. Their buddy can come up behind you. It's almost an infinite number of variables that you have to try to deal with.
Well, that infinite number of variables, right, is what gives us the ability or the capacity for creating an infinite number of sparring drills.
Yeah. And you can go on. You can certainly go on forever.
Yeah. Right. So but now the thing about it, to me, and can you see what Bo Jackson wrote?
I did. Yeah. I'm gonna take notes of that. I like that. We use it. We have our 3 rules. The first rule is that I don't get hurt, and part of that's on you, but part of it's on me to not do stupid stuff to get myself hurt. My second rule is that my partner doesn't get hurt. And again, part of that's on me, but part of that's on you. And this applies especially to grappling and stuff too. That means that, I'm not going to put myself in a position, if I'm like, I'm in a, I don't care what your rank is. I'm feeling like a funny position. I'm just going to tap right there and say, hey, I don't know. I don't like the way this is going from right here. Let's just stop and restart.
Yeah.
And then the third thing is to have fun. Because if it becomes more about me, whether it's punching, kicking, or grappling, if it becomes more about me beating you, then it's no longer fun. I like being able to. I always tell people for grappling, I love to grapple with people, and these people I know that aren't really trying to hurt me on these soft mats. I don't want to grapple with anybody out in the parking lot,
right?
Even if somebody you know. So, but that's the three rules, and that kind of keeps it's a lot like what his. I like the no trading shots. Talk to your partner. The keep it friendly part. That. It's funny you talked about in the karate tournaments because I fought on the karate circuit a long, long time ago. Seen that a lot, and these are black belt instructors with schools, with students there, ripping their gloves off and wanting to go hand to hand. He said, I ref some, and it's like, dude, your students, we're watching you. You know, this is not how you want to respond. Jiu-jitsu, you hardly ever see that. That's why I don't mind the kids doing jiu-jitsu tournaments like that. Somebody will beat you in a tournament, and then if you ask them, they'll show you how they beat you.
How they beat you,
and say, hey, if you'd done this, they would, it would have counted or kept me from doing that.
Right. Yeah, and that is one of the things that has made jiu-jitsu stand out, right? Because you'll hear like even Joe Rogan talk about it. It's the only art where you can go close to all out without injuring your partner and what have you, right? Okay. And I hear them say that, and I think to myself, okay, there's no way that that's the only art where that can happen. But people will just automatically accept it because it's coming from well-known people.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. But then I think about the 5 rules, and sometimes when I say this, people are like, I never knew there were 5 rules. But I remember when we were training with Salem Astley, right? Salem had 5 rules for glove drilling in Savate, right? So, and I always mess them up because I know there are 5, but sometimes I forget one, right? So there's stay in motion, there's go for the touch, there's use control, there's respect the range, and then there's use full extension of the limb. Because Boxe Française has that look to it, right? Yeah. And I thought, okay, we'll just take those 5 and apply it to everything. You see? So one thing, my students, it's like this. Here's how you know that you're ready for sparring. I don't have to correct you on form.
Yeah.
Okay. If I don't have to correct you on form, offensive, defensive, counter offensive, or whatever, you are ready.
To me, and I want to be able to see that control. And it's funny you mentioned Savate because I have trained virtually none. But Kevin Lee was up with Sifu this past Saturday, and Sifu had him work like some Savate drills that looked really good, especially the kicking drills, because they're kind of known just for that touch. I always tell in my class, I always tell the kids, it's easy to hit hard, but it's hard to hit easy. But if I can hit you easy, I can hit you hard. It's one of my traditional karate instructors was like that. You can punch the front, you can punch the shirt, which a lot of times I'll pull their shirt out and just punch that. You don't feel anything. You can punch the skin, you can punch 3 or 4 inches in, you can punch all the way through. It's just a matter of where. So if I can touch you, I can certainly hit you hard. The problem is developing that kind of control. I watched Kevin do a couple little kicks, and it's like, oh, that's just amazing, with the touch like that. So
did you ever have Sifu Dan? Did you ever have Sifu Dan show you that for the 1-inch punch?
Yes, I watched. I've had him work through that. Yeah.
A couple pages. than to the middle of the whatever.
I've had in my very early years with Sifu Fong, I was telling somebody the other day, that's the best use of the phone book. You don't even have phone books anymore. If you do, they're
Right.
skinny. But I remember Sifu Fong had me holding a phone book and a focus mitt. And he was just nailing me, and it's like, and he was making, okay, now watch the shoulder, and he hits, and like, oh man, it's like, so he's playing the strings and hitting on it like that.
Yeah.
But it's that same idea. But if you can teach that in class, I just call it touch control. You should be able to, at speed, touch,
right,
and then come back. And if I could touch the outside of your head, I could touch the middle of your head too.
Yeah.
But too often it's just, just slam. Especially in jiu-jitsu, you can go literally virtually 100%, and you could do it. You may not be at if you're young, you can do it every night. But at my age, if I grapple hard a couple of nights a week, I'm probably okay, reasonably hard, not 100%. But when it's kicking and punching, somebody always gets hit a little too hard. So we're supposed to be going 50%, but I feel you hit me 51%. I'm going to 52. Right. And the next thing you know, it's 100%, 100%.
Yeah. It to me, the whole issue of sparring is where the high quality people become apparent, become evident. Because if a student has no respect for a fellow student and cannot understand this student in front of you is not a piece of training equipment.
Yeah.
The reason why the heavy bag and the focus mitts and the kick shield and the bob or the wave master or whatever, those are designed to take the punishment.
Yeah.
No human being is designed to take the punishment unless the two of you are putting it on the line for money.
Yeah.
In a professional setting. And if they can't appreciate that, then you know what? You don't need to be part of this sparring class. And if you can't be part of this sparring class, means you can't be a member of the school. You know what? You don't need to be a member of this school.
Yeah.
Because I'm not having it.
Yeah, we've sent some, there's not as many now true like MMA schools. There used to be a few, and literally they did what I talked about earlier. It's like their classes basically, okay, jump rope, and now let's put the gear on and spar.
Yeah.
Every class, that's, it's just it's a different mentality. I had shared something on my Facebook page. The guy wasn't one of my students, but he's a local fighter, kind of lamenting the fact that, now he's got kidney issues, he's got brain issues and stuff like that. As much as he loved MMA, what did you trade off the end of your life like that? I want to be, I'll be 64 next month. But when you look at Sifu Fong and Guru Dan, that's middle age. When I go out to the academy for instructors camp, I'm still kind of considered middle aged. A lot of those guys are older. There's some guys up in the 70s and stuff too.
I don't raise my hand when he goes around the room. Right? And if somebody says, but you've been with him for 40 years, I go, yeah, I started when I was 10.
I wish I could have got him back in those early days. Because I'm here in South Carolina, and when but I never even heard of like the Smoky Mountain camps and stuff like that. That was never even heard of them. Yeah,
I refuse to go to Smoky Mountain because I'm not a camper. I'm a hotel guy. I like me a hotel room. So no, the Smoky Mountain was not for me. Sorry. I leave that for hardy Vikings like Eric Paulson and Greg Nelson and Rick Fay, and them Wisconsin guys and Rob Kelly and them North Carolina. Nah. I'm just a little kid from the islands, man. I don't do that camping thing.
That's funny.
Right? But now let me ask you this again, though. If somebody said, you know what? Okay, I'll just make it personal. So I semi-retired from the big school thing 8 years ago. If I came to you and I go, Mark, you know what? I'm thinking about getting back into it. running a school and seeing if I can recreate what I had for 20 plus years,
Yeah.
what would your advice to me be?
Don't do it. You want to, again, it depends on what you want to do. You know, we all get into martial arts because we want to train. But there's a point where I call it friction. You know, you have the admin work. You know,
Yes.
we have a big kids program, but along with that is belt testing, keeping track of the paperwork, and you
Right.
will find yourself, unless you get somebody that's really good at it, that can handle that. You know, I spend more time doing admin work than I do like my own training or curriculum development. You know,
Yeah.
I always tell people, like, when I retire again, I want to be like Guru Dan. You just kind of show up, you kind of teach what you want to teach. People get it or you don't
Yep.
get it, or
Yep.
they don't get it. But either
Yep.
way, you go on, because Guru, you can tell Guru just celebrates the joy of just sharing it. And but he's not, you know, if you're teaching a small group, you don't really have to do that, because you know kind of what everybody knows and everybody works together. I think it was this last instructors camp. Guru talked about the Filipino martial arts instructors typically had 4 students,
Right.
and they would keep
4
them for
aces.
6 months for a year, and then they would train them. They would train them all together, and then they would kind of move on. But he said they hardly ever had more than that.
Yeah.
If you're going to do that, like if I'm teaching the same 4 people every day, you know what they know and what they can do. But if you get up to, you know, 250 students across age ranges, especially if you're not teaching every class,
Right.
now it has to be more structured. And if you're going to test, it's not fair to test people on something you haven't taught them. So now you have to have a structured curriculum. And all that means more paperwork and less being able to kind of just flow
Yeah.
from one thing to another. I was talking with one of Carlos Machado's guys the other day. You know, Carlos is like Sifu Fong. If you train with Sifu Fong, you know, he has a hard time. He's amazing, but his level is so high, it's hard for the rest of us to catch on. You know, he hardly ever does the same thing twice, and it's hard because he comes in and he pots out and goes. He goes off the energy there.
Yes.
But then when he goes to repeat it, he doesn't get the same energy. Something else comes out. He has to break that down into small things for the rest of us. Carlos is the same way. He's constantly refining everything, which is great. But now it's like, okay, you can't. We're talking about, you need a basic curriculum.
Right.
But you can't keep going back and say, okay, well, we can redo this like all the time. You know, you want it to improve, but at some point you need to say, okay, these are the basics that you need. You can't keep changing everything every time, even though it's evolving. But then, you know
what my solution for dealing with Sifu Francis Fong, when Elon Musk invents the chip that records everything, right? I'm signing up for that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, I'm signing up for that one, right? Because amazing. I'm so glad that I'm gonna get to see you in. Now, okay. Well, let me press my luck. What about October instructor conference? Are you going to
No, I
that?
probably will not make that one. I went in March, and then the cruise overlapped August. Carlos's BJJ affiliate camp is the same 4 days as Inasama camp. So I did that. I did Guru earlier. I like the August camp. I've always went to the August camp because, one, it's 5 days. So, you know, you want to get your hours in, and it's 5 4-hour sessions. So you get all 20 hours in. So it's a long way for us. So it makes more sense and stuff. And he said a lot of people don't like to go in August because of the heat, but you know, from where we're from, it's like there's no heat.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I think I was there in we're in August, so I think maybe in June, and we stayed in Marina del Rey, and I woke up and it was 69 degrees.
Yeah,
in June. You know what I mean? Right? So yeah, I don't think people know heat. And they just had a hurricane, so I don't know what the hell is going on.
Yeah, it's hard to
Right?
say what's going on out there now. It was
Yeah.
really it was cool when we were out there because he did the camp late February, early March, and it was cool out there. Yeah, it's the first time I'd been out when it was that cool. I kind of like the August a lot better. Hopefully, I can kind of get back on that cycle.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, listen, man, I know you got to go. You got to go do class in a few minutes. So
Yeah,
I hope this was worthwhile. I hope you got a little
absolutely.
something out of it.
I've got some stuff out of it. I think that's a constant. Everybody's constantly working on the pendulum, like I said, from technique to sparring,
Yeah.
moving it back and forth. You see a lot of kids programs going more and more towards character development, less martial arts, and it's like, oh, too far that way, go back this way. And I think that's good. That means everything's evolving as
Right.
you go along, which is, I mean, the nature
Yeah.
of JKD.
Yeah. I'm gonna send you something that I created about the whole prearranged sparring versus the freelance sparring thing.
Cool.
I'm going to send you a little template that I have for that, and hopefully that'll help you too.
Cool. And
Right?
for like Bo and some of those guys, I'm kind of reading some of the chats. I appreciate the input.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anytime that the discussion turns to sparring, I always enjoy it when Bo Jackson gives his input because he's got big shoulders and a big head, but it's all full of good stuff. Right. Right. All right, Mark. It's a pleasure, man. Spending some time with you.
All right, cool. I'll see you in Atlanta next month.
Yes, sir. All right.
All right.
Take care.
Thanks.
All right. Bye. All right. That was a nice quick one. Um, and that was what, episode 274. All right. So quick story, quick behind the scenes story. I I updated this new laptop computer the other day with Chrome or whatever, and it seems to have messed up the live stream software. So all the stuff that I pop up, for support the program and all that, it's all gone, right? So I have to spend the weekend trying to get that stuff back up. The thing you saw me do earlier today, where I put the postcard up with the countdown, that might become a feature on here or whatever. But anyhow, you guys know the deal. Follow me on Twitter at Dwight Woods, on Instagram at Dwight D Woods, at paypal.me/unifiedma Miami. The Jeet Kune Do Journey Volume 1 is available, paypal.me/unifiedma Miami. Support this program, the Jeet Kune Do Dialogues, on the YouTube channel. Just click the join link and you can see the different levels of membership available to you. Also at jkdrebel.com, click on the Rebel Gear link, and that's where you can see the different merchandise items that we have available. But of course, the best thing you can do is to share this video and spread the word about the Jeet Kune Do Dialogues. And so until the next episode, this is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Do Rebel, signing off. You guys have a great weekend. Stay safe. Talk soon. Take care.